Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Take Two. A great episode. A lot of twists and turns in this. Obviously, in this episode, we have Eddie and Sam working with a bounty hunter named Piper, who Eddie's kind of had some run-ins with. Obviously, we don't really go too much into detail. I mean, you get a little bit about some of their exploits in the past, but essentially, Eddie doesn't like her because she's too much of a rule breaker. She doesn't follow the rules, and he's kind of a stickler for the rules and the laws and stuff like that. But Sam kind of starts it's like, oh, being a bounty hunter is so cool. It's like, oh, you break it, who cares? We kind of got a lead, but it's kind of getting all wild and reckless and dangerous, and it's so cool. Even when it leads to her getting put in a biker bar, and the only one in there because Piper gets pulled out. But luckily, the dude that they were questioning, Tobin, is a huge fan of hers. In fact, he has a tattoo of Sam on his arm. Interesting enough, that's the same actor who plays Tallboy. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat on Riverdale. But nevertheless, but apparently we hear they kind of had exploits and had fun with Tobin and his gang and stuff like that. Just had wild fun time, all of them. So, but it kind of gave them the lead that they needed. That this all has something to do, because I'm almost skipping over it. Obviously, this is all about this dude named Ryan Conrad, who is a dude an escaped prisoner. He was being transferred. He nearly killed a guard and got out. And so it was like, why is he here? Well, it turns out potentially one of the people he might be after is his ex, Gina, because she's having a baby with someone else. And Ryan's got this whole, he's not the most stable person because he's just kind of done a lot of aggressive, terrible crimes in the past and stuff like that, assaulting people and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, so Gina's got to be the one she's got to be the reason behind all of this. Then things get complicated because Piper screws over the team. Because at first Eddie wasn't happy about the fact is like, oh, you got Sam involved in this? Get the hell out. And it's like, okay, you go if you're on your own, we'll handle this ourselves. Because the main reason is like, okay, we can work together. You handle things your way. But from the very beginning, Eddie was like, follow my rules. Things are going to go my way. And then we'll split like the $500,000 reward, But she crossed the line when it's like, not only did you break the law, you could have gotten Sam hurt. Which Sam tries to justify it later on by being like, no, I could have made that decision to just go, like, at any point in time I could have left. But it's like, no, Piper should have never even put you in that situation in the first place. She could have easily gotten you killed. Because it's all fine and dandy until she kind of, like, puts you in a compromising position, which I kind of expected that to kind of come up in the episode. It never actually did. I mean, to the point where when they captured Ryan and Piper put a gun on, I was like, and is she just going all asshole here and just taking him from you just because she can? But then, like, everything starts twisting and turning. It's like, there's so much that doesn't make sense, because Berto starts wondering, it's like, how was someone like Ryan able to transfer? Because it's usually non-violent people that get transfers, but, like, he's got a pretty violent record. So I was like, why was he able to get transferred? It's like, well, none of this is starting to make sense. Why is Piper doing this? It's like, oh, when Piper hasn't dropped him off, so that must mean someone must have captured, like, he must have turned the tables on her, and that she's in danger now. But it turns like, no, because there's so much more to this, because it involves Deacon. Well, first of all, let's talk about what Piper is all about. It's kind of interesting because they kind of foreshadowed it ahead of time in the episode. It turns out that this is all about a woman named Sierra, who was a woman that was very important to Piper. The fact is that Ryan killed her, but there was never enough evidence to prove that he did it, so he never was tried for her murder. And so that's what this has all been about for Piper, revenge. Which, remember when Sam called her, it's like, oh yeah, like, the fact is, when I'm kind of stressed out, I start fiddling with my ears, because she was fiddling with Piper was messing with her necklace, which we now know belonged to Sierra. And it's like, she had said it from the beginning. It's like, oh, you want to know why I became a bounty hunter? It's like, it's someone that I love very close and dear was killed. And she's like, no, I just like the thrill of it. And I was like, oh, I guess that is your real reason. It's like, no, she literally told Sam the truth from the very beginning. And now it kind of adds context to everything. Because to be fair, we don't really know how long she was really a bounty hunter. Like, we know Eddie's crossed paths with her in the past, but like before 2014, was she a bounty hunter, or was Sierra's murder what led to her becoming a bounty hunter? Who knows? But now you kind of understand why she does what she does, why she kind of breaks the laws and doesn't care about the consequences, because ultimately maybe that's kind of what this all became for her, because it's like, the law doesn't work out in your favor, because it didn't work out in Sierra's favor, and Ryan was never like was punished for what he did to her, So maybe that's, on some level, maybe that's why Piper does what she does, not really care about the law and the consequences, so she does whatever she wants to, maybe that's kind of a side effect of it, or maybe it just kind of goes hand in hand. She kind of already thinks like that, feels like that, so the job as a bounty hunter is, oh, great, and she just happens to get this opportunity. So it's really hard to say, like, what's that. I kind of get the feeling like it might be more than that. It might just be like, maybe that's just who she is, but I don't know. It's hard to say, like, whether that is secretly the motivation or what kind of drove her to kind of be that person. Like, maybe before Sierra's murder, she was a completely different person. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll never really know. Maybe, like I said, maybe Eddie knew her before then. So, because an interesting thing I thought was interesting was, like, it's something that Sam ends up bringing up later, because Eddie ends up stopping Piper from doing it. Both him and Sam do, because it's like, Eddie, like, because Sam understands, like, oh, the revenge, and you were never to get justice for the person you love, so she can understand. But Eddie's like, yeah, he's been in that situation himself too, but he reminded himself that, like, that's not justice, that's just revenge. Like, yeah, things don't always work out, but the fact is, crossing that line for revenge is just, there's a line, justice, trying to get justice yourself, it's no longer about justice. It eventually just becomes about revenge. Like, there's this whole system that we have to believe in and rely on, essentially. Obviously, I'm kind of putting my own spin to it, but essentially that's that. Which, the fact is, he brings that up, and with the context of the way the episode kind of plays out, makes me think, like, we'll probably be seeing that story soon enough. What was it that almost pushed Eddie to kind of go down that route himself? Because the thing is, Sam eventually, like, in the beginning, like, when her and Eddie were tied up, she said this thing, and I thought was so fascinating. The reason why she bonded so much with Piper is like, oh yeah, being able to do whatever you want to, thought like, oh, the amazing appeal of a bounty hunter is because Piper reminds Sam so much of who she used to be before she got clean. Because it's like, oh, doing whatever you want, never really caring about the consequences. It's like because she can't really live that out herself, it's almost like she was living that out vicariously through Piper. So that's why it was so seductive, why it was drawing her in, because she was almost falling back into her own bad habits by hanging out with Piper. And I thought that was that was such an interesting thing. But for Eddie, he was like, no, you're nothing like Piper. The fact of the matter is, only Sam I know is the Sam that cares about people, trying to help them out. And it's like, that's what makes you a better PI than a bounty hunter. She's like, oh, you said I was a good PI. He's like, no, I didn't say that. What she did say is, like, he didn't say you were a good PI. It makes you a better PI than you would be a bounty hunter. So he couldn't just let her have the compliment, but nevertheless, because Piper kind of makes her, she's like, oh, I thought we were kindred spirits, because Sam Eddie was able to convince people to reopen Sierra's case, and it's like, you think that's going to make anything better? It's like, but this is how you get justice. Sierra wouldn't want that, getting justice for her in this way. And it's like, I thought we were kindred spirits, but it's like, oh, you're more like Eddie. And you have Sam be like, yeah, I am. Because Sam takes pride in being more like Eddie, because she sees what he does and how he handles things. And she doesn't want to be like Piper. She wants to get justice the right way. Nevertheless, going back to the, like, crazy spin that this was all about. So it turns out that this is connected to Deacon, because when Eddie visited him, I was like, okay, so what's this all about then? So it turns out the people who are offering the bounty, the 500,000, is Deacon, like the group that he's a part of, Lawmen for Justice. It's a group that he was kind of a part of. They're putting up the money. But then it's like, why? He wants Ryan captured, but it seems like he was also the one behind the transfer. But now it's like, oh, so it's not all going according to plan, but it's like, but Piper having him wasn't part of the plan. But now it seems like, no, Piper getting him was kind of part of the plan, because it fed into what he wanted in the end. In the long run scheme of things, Gina's baby daddy, Alex, is testifying against Deacon. So Ryan Conrad already wanted Alec dead, because he's the baby daddy of Ryan's ex-girlfriend, Gina. He's obsessed with her, and so he wanted to kill Alex to get back at her. It's like, oh, how dare she cheat on me with you? I mean, he was going probably gun for both of them, but he definitely wanted Alex dead. So this was all about transferring Ryan to the same prison so that he could kill Alex. But the fact of the matter is, Deacon didn't count on him escaping. But the moment he did escape, he tried to twist this to his advantage, bringing in Piper. Piper got like $50,000 up front to do this, but she had to make sure she brings Eddie in. So it's like, why? Because Deacon wanted this to all play out so that Eddie could feel powerless in the end. It's like, oh, look, this guy you're trying, oh yeah, you thought you were so good. Oh, look at you, good cop and all that. Look, this guy's dead now because of you. Because we wouldn't have to worry about all this if you had not gotten me locked up. And it's like, I mean, look, I mean, I'm not saying this is exactly what happens because that's just a story. We don't know what's truth. But he's like, if that were true, I think twice about things going forward because it's like, oh, the fact is I'd be kind of scared of what I'm able to do because this is just me behind bars being able to commit that, which is such a great thing to me because I was like, man, there's no way this Deacon storyline is done. It's popped up a little bit here because obviously the whole territory situation that came up like a couple episodes ago, but that was about it. But it's like, nah, Deacon's still working things behind the scenes even while in prison. And now the one witness against him is dead. Things in his trial aren't going to look good. So now it's probably good in a not going to look good in a bad way because now he can probably get out, and it's just like the last thing you want is someone like him getting out, especially because he's like Sam and Eddie both have a target on their back now because he's going to do whatever he can to take them down, you know. So like this is kind of like icing on a cake, like making Eddie get involved because it's like, oh yeah, like because he knew that Eddie would be the one to stop Piper, so he knew he would get Ryan back in anyway. So it's like this whole calculated plan. Like I said, he didn't expect Ryan to escape, but he took that opportunity and twisted it into this perfect little evil scheme. So I did it was kind of nice at the end where Sam kind of reminded Eddie, it's like, no, we will get him. He might have gotten us this time, but we will get him. We'll play him next time, and kind of trying to cheer Eddie up. So I thought that's kind of pretty neat. I do wonder, will we ever see Piper again? This might be just like, she'll probably try and steer clear of Sam and Eddie for a while. But what I'm thinking is maybe if things go well with the whole trial against Ryan, the whole Sierra situation, then maybe her mind will change about Eddie and Sam, and maybe we'll see her pop up more. Who knows? Maybe we'll just kind of see her pop up anyway. We'll have to wait and see. Some other interesting things that came up this episode was the fact is that we learned a little bit more about Berto and Monica, because Monica was like, you know, they're obviously staking out Gina's place in her life. She's like, so did you always dream of being this? And for him, it's like, no, because he never actually dreamed of growing up, because I guess, you know, from what he's implying, like the neighborhood he grew up in, a lot of people, in particular his friends, didn't grow up, like, you know, probably died super young and everything. And he's like, that's why he's kind of okay with being a PI, because it makes him feel like, hey, we're part of the good guys. And Monica, the whole like psych situation is just because she wants to understand people, which I can understand. Like, it's just kind of like people are kind of a mystery to you and you're trying to figure them out, kind of figure out how they work, because you probably don't really communicate well with them. But for her, it's like, yeah, I'm a disappointment to my parents, which is like, in what regard? Maybe that's something we'll see soon. But Berto kind of says, oh, that's kind of a benefit of not having parents. You don't have to worry about that, which is like, oh man, that's kind of a downer. But I guess it's like, no matter how much of a disappointment you might seem to your parents, be grateful that you have them. I guess that's kind of what the context of that might be kind of trying to imply. So at the end of this all, they didn't get the money, which in the end, it's like, is dirty money anyway. So obviously they weren't going to take it anyway. Plus, for Piper, this is all about revenge mostly anyway. So, well, she also was like, yeah, why not get paid at the same time I'm doing it anyway? So that kind of feeds into what I was bringing up, like whether or not she was already like that. Even though it was such a personal revenge case, she was still being like, oh, why don't I get paid doing it too? So like I said, I don't know, maybe Sierra being murdered like corrupted her in a sense, or maybe she was always kind of a little shady before, but maybe she got skewed even more in that shady angle because of Sierra's murder. I don't know. Like I said, a great episode. I do appreciate all these little twists and turns to this episode, because it's like, oh, what is this about? You know, you're trying to figure it out at the same time they do, and they figure it out, and it's like, oh man. Because even when things are kind of like, okay, you got a big picture of it, but you still couldn't see the grand design of like what this is all about. And it's like, oh, so that's how it all ties together, you know? So using Alex as the weapon, essentially, without him even knowing it, that he's being puppeted around to kill this particular person. He wants to do it anyway, but you're manipulating him, putting him into a situation to be your weapon without you being the one that has to wield it, you know? So, like I said, a part of Deacon's evil genius. So I'm very interested to see where the storyline goes forward, but I'm also very interested to see what just goes down in the next episode anyway. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good